Hi, my name is Spanish Flu, and I'm excited to tell you a little bit about myself today. So this here is just a picture of kind of what I look like. Remember these little spiky things on my surface because that's gonna come into play in a little bit. Now, a little bit about me. So, like I said, I am Spanish Flu. I'm better known as Influenza A, more specifically subtype H1N1. So, most of you have probably heard of me, but not as Spanish flu. You've heard of me more just as the common flu. Now, while we are not exactly the same, we are very similar and we come, well, some of the flus that we've known today are going to be mutations from me. And so these flus cause yearly epidemics. Now, like I said, I'm responsible for the Spanish flu outbreak of 1918 to 1919. And during that time, I infected nearly a third of the world's population, which was around 500 million humans. Now, this photo here is from the Spanish flu outbreak, and it is talking about precautions against influenza, which is me. You'll notice that there are no vaccines listed in this precautionary paper, and that's because vaccines weren't invented at this time. So that is going to be a big reason of why I was able to infect so many people. And you'll see that a lot of these precautions are going to be just avoiding people, trying to avoid crowds, and especially avoid those who are sick. Now, my life is kind of interesting. My exact origins are unknown, but like most influenzas, I did likely mutate from an animal, most likely a bird or some other avian kind of species. Now, the way I infect humans is I like to live in droplets of those who are already infected, and I can survive on surfaces like doorknobs or counters for short amounts of time. I enter through the eyes, nose, or mouth, and that's going to be either particles from someone sneezing getting into a healthy human, or a healthy human touching some of my particles from any surface and then rubbing their eyes, their nose, putting their fingers in their mouth, anything like that. And then I really like to spread to new people one day before someone shows symptoms and up to 7 days after they become sick. So that is a fairly large window of me being able to spread to other people. Now, like at the beginning, I mentioned those little spiky things on my surface, and so those are actually proteins. They are hemagglutinin and neuraminidase. So I imagine them like a key, and then sialic acid on the host cell is what those keys are going to bind to, and so that sialic acid is almost like a lock. So because of those proteins on my surface, and specifically the hemagglutinin, when they bind to that sialic acid on the host cell is actually going to allow me into the cell. They do not realize that I am harmful to them. So when I get into the cell, my RNA is released and it does use the host cell's DNA, and I make copies from those DNA. And then once those copies are produced, I leave by cell budding. So the host cell has no destruction, and I am dependent on my host for energy to reproduce. And then this video here is just a nice little, more in-depth look at my replication or reproduction. So if you want, you can look this up on YouTube. It goes really in depth. Now, my symptoms are typical of the common flu. So, the most typical symptoms are going to be fever, cough, sore throat, runny or stuffy nose, headaches, and fatigue. However, during the Spanish flu, there were lots of deadly symptoms. Like I said, I infected a lot of people. And so, those people, since they didn't have vaccines, they did not have proper measures to really fight against some of these symptoms that I give. And so those more deadly ones are going to be pneumonia, encephalitis, which is inflammation of the brain, extreme fever, blood in the urine, or even coma. So that was just a little bit about me. Thank you for listening. Here are some of the references that I used, and I hope you were able to learn something.